Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Spilling Some Tea. We are here with Leslie Mack and Chris Love, and we're going to get started. We're going to get started with what the streets is talking about. And I guess we're going to have to start off with Miss Ellen.
Not that Ellen, but Meredith Grey herself, Ellen Pompeo.
Miss Pompeo.
I love that the notes in our script are Ellen Pompeo's bitch ass.
As we keeping it real over here.
Listen, we do keep it real here. For those who haven't heard this story, apparently, I think she has a new podcast out because that's the only thing I can think of why these stories are coming out. And ironically, she was talking to her former co-star, Patrick Dempsey, who there's been some news recently about their own squabbles, but they didn't decide to touch on that on this episode. But what Miss Pompeo decided to do was talk about the time that she swore and yelled at Denzel Washington while he was directing an episode of Grey's Anatomy, because she didn't like the direction he was giving to another actor in a scene. And the levels of this have been hitting me like so many times, especially because it came out that Debbie Allen had brought Denzel as a surprise for Ellen. It was a gift, right? It was a gift to have him come and direct. And also that Ellen approached Miss Pauletta Washington, Denzel's wife, to also complain about him and what she didn't like about his work as a director on the show. And the way that the reason why I say there's levels to this is because the fact that it happened at all is ridiculous, right? Like there's the actual incident itself and her talking to Miss Pauletta and all of those things, which are absolutely absurd. I don't care if you're the star of a show. Like, I know how entertainment sets work, and like the director is the top of the tier. So they decide the things, especially when you're rolling. And so it's for her to say, you don't even know where this was her quote, "This is my motherfucking show. You don't even know where the bathroom is," to Denzel. Ma'am. So that's bad. But what's really been sitting with me is the fact that as bad as that story was, through all of her performative allyship machinations over the last couple of years, that she thought this was a story to tell is what's really sticking with me. Like, that's the real like white womanness of it, because the incident itself, I always say this, it's always about the reaction, like how white women react to their behavior. And so this is what I see, is that she thought this was like a cute little story about her standing up for herself against big bad Denzel Washington, and that's how it was going to play to the public. What do y'all think? I mean, that's what I've been really ruminating on, is like, girl, nobody needed to know this. You're offering yourself up for what?
I just like the record to show that I've never liked Ellen Pompeo. I didn't like her when I watched Grey's Anatomy. I feel like she leans a lot on the fact that she married a black man and has half black children.
I know she has gotten into Twitter fights with people on that particular subject.
Right.
Shout out to the journalista, because I know she was one of the people that went head to head, Monique from the roof.
It's just a lot of white woman audacity, and I'm not here for any of it. It's disrespectful. But I can't say that I expected anything less.
No, the incident itself is not shocking to me.
Right.
I want to be very clear. And I also will say no black person is shocked that it happened. Right? You see, Denzel didn't talk about it because he knows that this is not something that he can actually even talk about. But the fact that she thought she was ready to share this. Oh, and I told him, ma'am, just stop. I only have one Ellen Pompeo story. I was on this virtual town hall that was held with BLM Louisville and the Advancement Project and Black Women 4 just after Breonna had been murdered. And there was a bunch of, like Jesse Williams was on it and Kerry Washington and a bunch of other people. So everybody on this whole town hall panel is all Black people except Ellen. Each of us go through our impassionate pieces that they put together. I was speaking specifically about the Say Her Name campaign and the context of it, how it came to be, etc. That's what my role was. And this woman cried.
Of course you did.
During the town hall with a screen full of Black people, some her peers, some organizers, family of Breonna Taylor who managed to get through their piece without crying. And she actually cried. And I just remember looking around in the Zoom room, because they have you in like the green room, so you don't see what it's like. And all of literally everybody's face, Chandra Wilson, everybody, all Tracy Ellis Ross, all of our faces were just like, it was like simultaneous, just like, look at this whiteness. And I was like, here you were invited into this space, a singular white voice to say whatever. I don't even know what her part was supposed to be, but I know it was not her crying in her wherever she was. But anyways, that's my Ellen Pompeo story. So no, I'm not surprised by any of it, and she's getting all the smoke on the internet, and I think it's hilarious. So
yeah, for me, the tipping point was when and I just reread it this afternoon. There was an interview with her, Shonda Rhimes, Kerry Washington, and Viola Davis, where the article that Broad wrote saying that Viola wasn't classically beautiful, and asking Shonda basically like, why would you choose her for the role of Annalise? And after already, without overstating, already saying, what the challenges are as Black women in Hollywood, this Broad had the nerve to say, well, if goodness comes out of ignorance, then I'll take the ignorance. And when Viola Davis was like, not today. And she was basically like, I've been on the other side of that ignorance. Ellen got up, cried again, got up and left the room. And, reading that and being reminded of, just what she is. None of this surprises me. But I will point out, we all know that Debbie Allen and Denzel Washington are very close friends. And I'm sure he has no reason to direct TV. He doesn't need to. He's Denzel fucking Washington.
Exactly.
And so the fact that he did this for his friend as a favor, and she was doing it because, for whatever reason, Pompeo, is her show, and how poorly she behaved. You will notice that Denzel Washington has never directed another episode of TV since. And I have to say, I don't blame him, because he doesn't need that. And for her to say, for all intents and purposes, when you're a director, that's your fucking set.
It is.
It's your set. You are the bossiest boss of boss. So for her to say, this is my show, this is my set, no, it's not. It's not your turn to direct. She's since directed other shows, but it was not her turn. And that was such blatant disrespect, such blatant disregard of everything. I'm still like appalled. Like, it's over and done with now, but I'm still really appalled. And you guys are right. Like, why would you pick this story to talk about on your debut episode? Because I believe that this is her debut episode.
Because she really thinks, because she thinks it's a story of a woman standing up to a powerful man. That's what she sees in that moment, and her claiming her territory as, the lead actor, and I think she's one of the executive producers of the show. That's why she told it. What she doesn't understand is that that's not that these are not equal things, and also that's not just any random director. Not that she should be talking to anybody that way, because it's actually indicative of how she treats people generally. But of all, that man got Oscars. You better go sit somewhere. I can't even talk to you, like, dead ass. Go sit in the corner. And how dare you bring Miss Pauletta into this mess too? Ooh,
yeah. I mean, well, why?
What you tell? You gonna tell on him? Like, you reporting back to his wife and like telling?
How
to
about this?
tell her that you don't like her husband's work. Like, go sit.
Go
Look,
sit down,
you're lucky
please.
nobody really put their hands on you, Ellen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
She's
that's
real
what you're
lucky.
lucky about.
She's
Real
real,
lucky.
real lucky.
What else?
Oh,
What else are they talking about out here?
I wanted to talk about Big Brother.
Oh,
But can I just spoil one tiny thing without spoiling everything?
you could spoil it. Go ahead, do that spoiling. Go
I
ahead.
haven't
Okay.
seen anything to spoil away.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, hang on. We got a comment. She believes her every breath and action is righteous. Her actions are harmful and systemically racist. That is exactly
She
correct.
sucks. Ew, she's gross. I
Yeah.
don't like y'all. You can cancel. Is Grey's Anatomy still on the air? Y'all can cancel that.
It premieres tonight. This is the other
Yeah.
thing. It's like, here's the
Oh.
thing. Here's the thing. And that's really what all of this is really about, is now everybody's talking about her. The new season premieres tonight. And so to me, it's all very calculated at the expense of a Black man and at the agitation of Black women in particular, because that's the audience of that show. And she doesn't give a shit. And it's really irritating. So yeah, that's really the grossness of it all, is that this is, exposure trolling at its finest and most professional.
And the last part was that there's also a tell-all book that came out this week or is coming out, going more in depth to what her antics were behind the scenes. But we're gonna move away from Miss Ellen or Miss Pompeo, and we're gonna talk about Big Brother because, as you guys know, the cookout prevailed. As we could all predict, the guys turned against the girls, and of course, the final two were two men. I will say that I feel like justice was served in some way because Big D, I don't know if I mentioned before, Big D is actually Joe Frazier's youngest son. Did I mention that before?
No.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, he's Joe
interesting.
Frazier's youngest son. And so it was him and Xavier, who is a lawyer in Milwaukee. He's also a model. He claims to be a bartender, but certain people in the house say that he doesn't know how to make a martini. So I'm not too sure what kind of bartender he is, but I don't believe it either. He ended up winning. But my favorite part is our girl Tiffany won the fans' favorite player. So
Yay!
she did end up with some money in the end.
Good.
Yeah, she ended up with some money in the end. So she got something. But the biggest thing that came out of the episode last night, I can't believe I watched this live. I've never watched anything live, but I needed to watch this. The biggest thing that came out was Big D, Derek, who I never watched the fan feeds, but I had heard that he was very misogynistic. He's also gay, which is really weird how he was going after one of the women about wearing a top. And he was like, you don't wear that in public. Well, first of all, she can wear whatever she wants to wear. Second of all, she's in a house. Like, you guys aren't out in public. She's in a house. Like, for all intents and purposes, this is your roommate. You're inside your house. She can wear whatever she wants. She's not naked. And he really went after her with that. And the other women in the house, none of them stood up and said, this is none of your business. Which in the moment, it struck me as really cringeworthy. But on top of that, I just was stunned after the fact, like when I thought about it later, that no one called him on it. Absolutely nobody called him on that bullshit. But that's fine. That's all well and good. Well, he ended up with just second prize, and absolutely nobody voted for him to win Big Brother.
That's what you get.
Which was also great. So I was very happy about that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about so we were vindicated. I think I don't know if the best player of the three won, but the least cringeworthy player that was left won, and I was happy about that. Tiffany got a little bit of money for her and her baby. I was happy about that. And I wanted to move on to the circle because we have some opinions about the circle and how that ended up. I will say it was a heartwarming finale in terms of who won, but I will forever keep side-eyeing Nick, Isabella, who's really Sophie, And even Ashley, to a certain extent, I think, Leslie, you and I had a brief conversation about what you thought of Ashley's Matt's game. So I'll let you elaborate on that.
Yeah, I felt like Ashley's game, Matt's game, was to be like just under the radar enough and not very like there was no confrontation that involved Ashley slash Matt. There was no conflict that involved them. And that was kind of their game to win. It almost worked, except for James Foyle's that little plan by being his jovial, fantastic self, to be perfectly honest. And I thought it was interesting that Nick and Kay came in fifth and fourth, which meant they were super polarizing. That means people either had them at the top or at the bottom, and there was no in between. I also didn't appreciate how nobody talked about the fact that everybody in Nick's alliances were catfish, and that everybody that Kay said was a catfish was a catfish. And I felt like I wanted a little bit more there. And I love Michelle Buteau, like to down to the floor. But I wish there was, I don't know, maybe they will do it after the show. I wish they would, because I think there's so much to kind of really discuss about these dynamics. And I really want to hear Kay's response to Calvin, curving her with this advantage he could have given to her, but no, he bros before women did. And now, not to say that would have made her win, but certainly I think it kept Nick around longer than he would have been around otherwise. And so those are the things that I was thinking about. I thought
and
it was cute seeing everybody else, but yeah.
Vince, the shadow profile, didn't Vince get to vote in one of the ratings?
No, they never had Vince vote, because first they said Vince was not able to vote because he was new and couldn't be voted for, and then by the time the next vote came around, he disappeared.
He was gone.
So they didn't actually have, because I actually was thinking about that. I was like, wow, that's like way too much of an advantage. So they did pull him off, so he never got to actually vote. But I'd love for someone to do like a supercut of these white people staring directly at this black woman and openly saying in front of everybody, she's doing all the right things and saying all the right things. There's just something, about her that I just don't trust. I wonder what it is. So that's the part that I would love to, I don't know if there's a companion podcast or whatever, but if there is, y'all better talk about that, because honestly, it was beyond triggering. It was just so blatant that you could hear them talking through their misogynoir in real time. And it was such a like transparent view. It's like the power of reality TV, right? Is that people, the veneers eventually drop, and you see them actively talking themselves out of supporting a black woman for no reason at all. And they voice that. I don't have a reason. I'm just, anyways.
And Kay did, she was real classy about it. I wouldn't even call it a reunion. It was like in the finale part, the final part, at the very end. She was real classy about it. She was like, she goes, when I really thought about it, I was like, oh, they're mad because I never actually spoke to them. But then it was like, but they never actually took the time to get to know her. And when they did, the damage was mostly done. They had already tanked her into 8th place. They did so much other stuff that kind of damaged her alliance, Ashley Matt did own up to the fact that the only reason he wanted to get rid of Calvin was because his next move was to try to get rid of Kay.
Yeah.
And I don't like Sophia at all. Sophia tried to laugh off her racism. I think she was very much aware of her bias and was very embarrassed by it, but she never actually apologized. She just tried to pretend to be sympathetic. Every single thing about her, especially in the last show, rubbed me the wrong way. Just everything about her rubbed me the wrong way. For sure.
Double agree.
Yeah, I would love if they did because they don't, you just reminded me, they don't do reunion shows like after the fact where people have let the wins or the experience soak in and they've gotten a chance to talk to other members of their family and friends to get their opinion. They don't revisit any of it. And that
I'm
would
sure
be
it's
interesting.
a COVID byproduct because it's a little
Mhm.
hard to gather people
Yeah.
because they were in a bubble doing the show,
Right.
and now
Right.
to try and do that a second time, I think because the circle has only been out since COVID, so I feel like
Yeah.
it's one of those. I think it's a byproduct of that. I think if there wasn't a pandemic, they probably would have come back
Yeah.
together because it takes a lot to create that bubble again to try and film.
Yeah. But it would
Just
be
ask,
nice.
just ask a view. Anyways.
Oh, that shit was funny to me.
God, them people and they false positives. They
Mhm.
definitely were false, but it's convenient. The
We'll
two
talk
people that
about
would
who's
have grilled
hot.
the vice president the hardest suddenly got a false positive test. But whatever. I
Mhm.
do believe in conspiracy theories. So anyway, especially
Let's
because like
move on.
wouldn't everybody have been like
Right.
it needs to be in quarantine at that point? Okay. Anyways, go ahead. Next up. Next up. I don't want to dwell.
Let's move on to what we're getting off our chest. What do we want to start with? There's just so much. Let's do the fun one. Let's talk about a certain assistant by the name of, we're going to give her full name, Candice Copple, racist
Yeah,
ass
you.
Candice Copple.
Yeah,
Cop
you.
is in her name. Her cop is in her name.
Yeah,
Just
you
know
ho.
that.
We talk about you.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And her quote unquote muddy blackface, because what was she doing? Some sort of ride and shoot, just
Horse
violent.
rowing or some shit.
Yeah.
Candice Copple is an assistant Maricopa County attorney. And y'all know I talk about that office frequently here. But Candice Copple is, she's a supervising attorney, right? And a Facebook photo surfaced of her riding on the back of the horse holding a gun in Western garb with her face blacked out. Like she had put mud on her face. So this hoe was out there in blackface on her public Facebook page. And one of the organizations, the abolitionist organization, Masswood out here, got a hold of the picture. And they were like, oh, so Maricopa County Attorney's Office is not only charging people as gangs for peacefully protesting, but they also have supervising attorneys that like to do blackface on the weekend and post it on social media. And so after some rigmarole yesterday and some back and forth, there was finally a statement from Ms. Kopp herself. And she explained that she is a member of the LDS Church, and they do historical reenactments. And she was a bad guy. And so they would often cover their faces in mud to disguise themselves while they were doing their bad shenanigans. But she recognizes how, taken out of context, it could be seen as blackface, and therefore she removed the photo, but her intent was not to offend, and she is sorry if you were offended.
Yo, that context makes it so much worse. Wow.
It does.
Girl.
Why
Your little LDS churchmen telling black people that they have the mark of Satan on them for a while. I think through like the late 80s. So any historical context around bad guys and darkening your face is racist and ass.
It's just blackface. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining, or don't put mud on your face and tell me it's not blackface, because it's blackface. And so then Miss Maricopa County Attorney Alister Adel herself, and I'm gonna get into her ass later, but she came out with a statement too, saying that Candice is a nice lady and she volunteers and she knows that she would never intend to harm anyone. So she can't, she wouldn't, she loves that she's on her team, and she will stay as a member of the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. And so, that's white women caping for white women and racism and all that kind of good stuff. But again, going back to what Leslie was saying about, stuff is happening with that office right now. They're being part of the investigation with the Department of Justice. Alister Adel just got out of her whole 2-week rehab stint. And so, this might have been something to, change the narrative around that office to something also terrible. But Leslie, why don't you talk about what you thought the intentions behind this whole episode were?
Which episode?
We were talking about how it's a signal.
Yeah. So this is something I've been thinking about lately as a strategist, which is, we have virtue signaling, which is like, people throw that out at folks on the left all the time, like, oh, we're just putting our pronouns in our bios to signal to people that we're good or whatever, and other things that they throw accusations. But I've been thinking about the concept of the anti-virtue signal, which would be something like what Candice and her boss do, which is they are racist and then claim they're not. But in the context of being racist, they've actually given a nod to other racists to say, hey, I'm one of you. And that it actually is a very smart strategy to simultaneously claim you're not racist, but throw up a flag so that people know you are. It's low-key like an American flag on a house right about now. It's like, I'm just trying to let you know who I'm with, wink, wink. And so I see a lot of these incidences coming up, and that's what I keep thinking about is like, oh, they actually are playing to their base in these moments. And the fervor that they are called on it only makes them further, like makes the actual target audience feel like, yeah, they came after me too. Like there's this cult of personality of melding of when you attack bad behavior of an individual, somebody who's also done that bad behavior now feels like you're attacking them, and therefore they think this person is like them. It's something that we saw 45 use to really great effect. And I think that we're seeing it more and more in political circles now. And that's what I think this incident is all about. Because honestly, I just don't buy that any person in 2021 thinks that putting up a photo of yourself with black anything on your face as a white person is not going to be read in any context. I don't care what it is. You know that this is going to be a controversial photo and you intended it to be. And I'm tired of pretending that these people don't know that. And I think that's the thing that I want to really like drive home in the convo is just that none of this is accidental. No, these are very calculated, very sophisticated people who know, they watch every sound they make. They have people telling them how they're testing and dials and all these things. So I just don't believe it. I don't believe it at all.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Michael said it's crypto fascism.
Yeah.
Sounds accurate.
Very accurate. Speaking of crypto fascism, just kidding.
Well, wait till you hear what she's talking about.
So apparently the pink pussy hats are on parade again this weekend, everyone. There is another women's march. I'm told it's in every state of the union, and everybody is, marching for reproductive justice to stand or be in solidarity with Texas and the many other states that are going to be affected by these coming laws, and SCOTUS as well come December. Here's my thing. One thing I hate in organizing generally is a waste of resources. The second thing I hate is a waste of opportunity. And so my main critiques about the Women's March is that they fail on both of those accords so often. And I would really love to know what came out of the first one, besides those that planned it being able to say they planned the largest march in the history of blase skippity boo boo, I don't want to take away the momentous moment, but also I was in DC for the march, not for the march, but when the march was there. These white women came to a bachelorette party, y'all. They was wearing sashes and tutus. It was a fucking party. And so watching what all of us Black reproductive justice um, activists, organizers, and allies have been worried, scared, frightened, teeth clenched in the evening come to pass. And this apparatus really have had no impact in that area. Why are we doing this? What are we marching for? What's the outcome? What's the action? One of my colleagues, Kevin Burnett, one of my favorite digital strategists in the game, he always has a thing he talks about. What's the ask? And there's never a fucking ask with the Women's March. And that's my actual problem. What's the ask? Yep. Besides showing up to the party, what is the ask? So that's all I have to say about that. What do you all have to say about it?
I have thoughts, but I'll let Cessi go first.
Well, I have very few thoughts about it because I really haven't thought about it, because I'm looking for what is the ask? What do you need me to do? If you're asking me to risk my health and travel to Atlanta or Alpharetta, because the pink pussy hats go long and strong over here in Georgia. If you're asking me to do all that and drag my two, I won't say raggedy kids with me, what do you want me to do? What are we banding together for besides making a shit ton of noise and wasting gas? Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing? I know why we're doing it, but what is going to come out of it? What is the intent? How is all of this noise going to physically stop this giant avalanche that's coming? Right now, just look, every day it's a new state with a new method of trying to roll shit back. How is anything that we do on Saturday going to actually stop that? So
or support the folks that are now in need of services that can't get them. Again, just going back to what is the ask? What is the action we're asking people to take? And a march is not an action.
No.
I want to be real clear about that. It's a gathering, it's an organizing opportunity. But the second part of that is, what is the ask of the people while they're there, besides giving more money to the Women's March?
So and sorry. I was going to say, the one thing I learned at the Frontline is that if you're going to amplify something, you need to amplify and you need to tell the people what to do. It's not just yelling. You need to tell them what to do next, because after they get the message, they need to know, they need to be directed. So that's all I have to say.
So I've participated in the Women's March, not the first one. The second one here in Phoenix and the third one I was at, both of those I was asked to give the keynote speech. That was the only reason I came, because I don't like marching. I'm just not, that's not where my talents lie. But also, I have the same criticisms, and I'm saying that fully knowing that, my organization that I volunteer for is a sponsor of the event, and we allow them to use our insurance and all that kind of stuff. And so, one of our staffers is someone who had organized the previous marches. And there is no ask as far as I'm concerned. At least nobody asked me. And they surely didn't ask me back after I started talking about reproductive justice and policing in my last speech that I gave a few years ago. So they don't want to see me anymore, because those lines don't hit well with the white ladies. It's all, yes! And then I mentioned somebody who's killed by police, and it becomes very polite. Applause.
I'm not happy, huh?
Yeah, so they're always like, well, contact your legislators and blah 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 and yada yada yada. But we're past that. As a point of really making a difference with regard to abortion rights. Right now in Arizona, everybody keeps on telling us we went blue or some shit, but we've still got a Republican governor, we've got a Republican legislature, we've got Republican courts, and none of those people like abortion. I just got off of conservative talk radio talking about abortion. I don't like abortion, And so I think that, having people, and who are our legislators are Mark Kelly, who is supportive, and Planned Parenthood endorsed him, but I don't think he's going to put himself on the line. And then our other one is Kirsten Sinema, and this issue that she has said that she will remain true to and firm to, but I don't see anyone taking any action with respect to her stance on the filibuster right now. And so supporting is one thing, but how are you gonna vote?
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like there is no plan of action, especially where the Women's March is concerned, because it's too late to call our legislature. Yep. Right? It's too late to call anybody to come in and save us. And the Dobbs case, which is the Mississippi case that's going to the Supreme Court, is going to be argued on December 1st, before the 2022 elections. So it's just kind of like, it's a big nothing burger. I think it's more to make people feel like they did something, but like it's not really doing anything. And pink pussy hats and merch and all that kind of stuff. It's too late. We really need to be sitting down and formulating some kind of actual plan once Roe versus Wade is overturned, because we know it's going to be. And we're not doing that in the March. No. And I don't think we're energizing the people who've already been on the ground working on these issues. And we're not really energizing the women that come because they get to go somewhere and march down the street for. It's not my bag. Technically, officially, I support it as someone who is the board chair for Planned Parenthood, but as Chris Love, I'm going to brunch on Saturday.
Well, I hope you enjoy your brunch.
Yeah. I will.
Yeah. Let's move on. We're going to continue in the abortion vein. Chris, do you want to touch on the Texas and Arizona cases?
Yeah. So let's talk about Texas SB 8. So last week we talked about how there were actually some legal challenges to it from some folks who are, supportive of abortion rights, and we're so happy about that. But this week, the state put in an argument basically saying that the federal government can't intervene because really this law, SB 8, doesn't infringe upon interstate commerce. It actually helps it because people can leave Texas and go to other states to get their abortions if they want to. So there was a lot of talk about this yesterday. A lot of folks were just kind of scratching their heads about what this means, but it tells me that they're just grasping at straws. These fools know. They know that this law is unconstitutional. They know that they have no mechanism to implement the law, even if the court finds that it's constitutional. It's a whole bunch of nutty mess. And these are the things that we expect to see in other states until Roe versus Wade is overturned. But in Arizona, we actually had oral arguments and an order from the court in our abortion ban case based on our law SB 1457. And that was a law that banned abortion for reason of genetic anomaly or disability. And it also granted personhood rights to fetuses. And it also did some other weird stuff, like requires you to bury products of conception and stuff like that. It's draconian. So we had our oral arguments about that this last week. And this week, the court decided that it was going to enjoin part of the bill from actually taking effect yesterday, which is September 29th, which is the day when all of our laws in Arizona take effect. And so basically what they said was that the reason ban, what we're calling the reason ban, is just kind of ridiculous. And it prevents people from being honest with their doctors and all that kind of stuff, because you could just go in and be like, I want an abortion, but I don't want it because of genetic anomaly. And it would have no impact, right? And so, but the court, interestingly, didn't address the heartbeat kind of personhood provision. So as far as I know right now, that's the law. Fetuses have civil rights, just like every other human walking on this earth in the state of Arizona. Now, I will tell you that the bill is still being challenged, and that part might be overturned once the court makes its determination. But this was just an injunction to stop these two parts from going into effect. But then there's all of these other nasty parts of the bill. Like I said, having to tell people who are coming to get abortions that they can bury the products of conception and give them some referrals. Like, here's a funeral home. You can go, bury your products of conception there. That hasn't been implemented yet because our our DHS department hasn't promulgated any kind of anything. We don't know how it's going to we don't know how it's going to be implemented or take effect. But, this is just Arizona and Texas right now. We've seen Florida talking about they want an SB 8 there. Arizona's talking about the same thing. It's just a really bleak time for people who are supportive of abortion rights and reproductive justice right now. And it's because y'all mofos got out there and voted for the wrong people. And not y'all, the people that are watching this,
right,
and people that are on this, but the people that got out and voted for the wrong folks. And now here we are. And unfortunately, this was a discussion I had today. Folks that are anti-abortion are one-issue voters. They don't care what else terrible a politician does. If they say that they are oppose abortion, that's the one thing that motivates them. Folks who support abortion rights and reproductive justice and reproductive freedom, we got other things to think about. So we don't go out and just cast our votes based on this one issue. But maybe we should, because now is the time to do it. Because we ain't gonna have no rights in a second. And, I just feel like here in Arizona, once Roe versus Wade is gone, abortion becomes illegal. We still have bans on our books, and it's criminal, right? So, we've got to send people here, there, and everywhere once that goes down. But we need a plan, y'all. We really need a plan for what happens when, not if, but when Roe versus Wade is overturned. And, I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing the plan.
Yeah, it's scary.
Nope.
It's really, really scary. It's frightening.
Yeah,
Literally, I started stocking up on Plan B. I can't have kids anymore, but I just was stocking up because I wanted to be able to send it to people or make it available. So I don't know what the solution is, but I had that in my head, and so I just was like, they had it. I actually just mentioned it to my husband, and it showed up, and he's like, oh, I just ordered it since you said something. And then I was like, okay, well, we got to figure out how to get it to people because they need it immediately, and we won't be able to get, these are the things that run through my head as like practical, not just Plan B, but also Plan C solutions and things like that, because I want more people to become more informed so that we don't find ourselves putting more, folks that could be pregnant in harm's way. And It's been heartbreaking, hearing the stories from providers in Texas already having to turn people away. And then, of course, the surrounding states are filling up slots, and then then they start to come up against other laws. I mean, the levels of this is so draconian, and I don't have a lot of hope. Lamentably, it's not sitting with me currently.
I just did a respectful debate with a person who is anti-abortion, and he's somebody that I've met, and we like each other, so it was no problem, right? But the one thing he asked me, and the one we think we could agree on, is that if we want fewer abortions, and I don't give a fuck how many abortions there are, quite frankly, let's be real. I don't care. It's a medical procedure, not my business. Abortion on demand without apology. But he was like, if we want more people, fewer unplanned pregnancies. I just don't understand the conservative tack for not wanting sex ed and all of these other things that would make that happen. And he was like, but for me, you know, life starts at conception. And I was like, you know, but me getting an abortion saved my life. My life. Mm-hmm. Right? My life is the one that I prioritized. I don't, you can believe whatever it is you want to about a fetus or an embryo or a zygote or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. You can believe whatever it is that you want. But my life is going to be the priority every single time. Yep. And I wish that folks who call themselves pro-life would really take a look at that. Yep. You know, they don't care about people. They don't care about women. They don't care about children. They just care about this idea of life or whatever. But then they're like overwhelmingly in support of the death penalty. Mm-hmm. They're out there arguing my body, my choice for these vaccines. It don't make no sense. They're just hateful.
I wish they would look at it like they look at, you know, the Second Amendment, the right to own and have as many guns as you feel comfortable with to protect yourself. Well, you can equivocate that with abortion. Abortion on demand. People who support the Second Amendment want to have their guns. They don't want to wait. They want to have it because they feel that it's their right. Well, that's the way we feel about abortion. And like you said, there's no limit. There should be no limit to it. If that's what you want to do. Like if you want to say it's none of my business how many guns you have in your house. Well, it's none of your business how many abortions I've had and what my reasons are.
But it's not really about that, right? And I think that this is just, you know, it's cover for the fact that they just want to control people's bodies and what they can do. They want people who would make choices, the best economic choices for themselves, because abortion is really an issue of economics for the most part, right? Yep. They don't want people who they don't desire or feel should have the right to make the best economic choices for themselves to do that. They surely don't want Black people and brown people and indigenous people to have any control over their bodies. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's one of the, but those are the same people that, you know, sneak through the back door of Planned Parenthood, get their little abortion, and then go back out and pick it. Mm-hmm. All right? Yep.
That's exactly right.
They understand. They just don't really care.
Right. Oh boy. Let's move on to who we're fucking up this week. Are we staying in Maricopa County?
We always stay in Maricopa County, and this one goes to Alister Adel, our Maricopa County attorney, who is now back on the job after completing a whole 2.5 weeks. I'm giving the half. I feel like that's generous. After 2.5 weeks of rehab for an eating disorder and substance abuse issues and exhaustion and all kind of stuff from her job that she just came back to. So she finally decided to grant, ABC 15 has been doing this big expose about the Maricopa County Attorney's Office and the Phoenix PD, and they finally granted the reporter Dave Biscoving an opportunity to interview her after 8 months. And she gave them 10 minutes. And during the 10 minutes, she claimed she couldn't answer any questions because a lot of it is part of an investigation. And so she didn't answer anything. And then finally, at the 10-minute mark, they told him, okay, we're done. And he was like, but why? We've waited patiently for the past 7-8 months. We haven't bombarded you anywhere. We haven't followed you around. You know, why would you cut us off at 10 minutes? And she was like, well, I have other interviews and I respect everyone's time. He was like, you know, we could have done this tomorrow. We could have done it we could have gone last, right? So why? And she was like, well, let me bring this up. I just feel like maybe you can help us, you know, really spread. There's a way that we can talk about this where we can spread information to people and teach them how to protest peacefully. And at that point, Dave gave her the bitch, what? He gave her the like gas face. And he was like, absolutely not. This is inappropriate. How dare you suggest? He's like, first of all, it's unethical. How dare you suggest that we be used as some part of some PR campaign from your office when your office has acted corrupt this entire time? Like, he read her And then she got up and walked away, took her mic off and walked away.
Oh.
So the white audacity of that bitch, number one, and yes, she is a bitch, okay? How dare she act like her office wasn't the one that was doing something to violate these people's right to peacefully assemble and protest. And they were peaceful protesters, right? But she doesn't see that she did anything wrong still. Maybe it's because she's been drinking too much. I don't know. But how dare she? And then on top of it, which is, something that I'm very excited about, Maslib, who I mentioned previously, had a press conference the day before yesterday. And at the press conference, they demanded that she resign or be recalled. So they're ready to start a recall campaign against her. And I made sure Planned Parenthood was in the place. I couldn't be there, but Winnie was. My husband was. All my peoples was. Okay, Dawn was there. Both Dawns were there, right?
Yes.
Court, this bitch gotta go, okay? And if she's not gonna go on her own, and it's clear that she won't, because you can't shame someone who has no shame, then she's going to be recalled. And I fully support this recall effort as Chris Love, Planned Parenthood board chair, as Chris Love, tribal attorney, as Chris Love, everything you can think of. Get her ass out. Get her ass out. Alister Adel, go get some real rehab. Go get some real rehab before it's too late. And stop visiting your evil upon the people of Maricopa County and the state of Arizona.
It's that simple, girl.
Yep.
Stop.
Listen, I can't say I mess her up on site because
Don't be threatening people, Chris.
Look, I'll be on the news about that.
Violent. I realize I didn't add this into our notes, but I do want to F up anybody who took the opportunity to immediately after the R. Kelly verdict fix their fingers, faces, mouths, and hearts to craft a redemption arc for him the day that he was convicted. I don't actually even want to talk about it anymore, but I just want to say, all of you, I don't care who you are, I don't care how famous you are, I don't care how much money you have, if that's what you decided to do that day, I'm ready to fuck you up. Okay, that's it. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Yeah, we can leave it at that.
That's it.
Yeah. Yep. And to add to the list of who we fucking up on site, we can put Mansion on that list. And we don't need to review nothing for him because
he can stay right on the list. Forever.
He can just stay right there, right under Robinette, which is what I call him now. President Robinette.
Robinette. Democrats. Period.
Robinette.
Democrats.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Yeah. Let's move on to a slice of joy. I'm going to give my slice of joy because I actually, for the first time in a really long time, I actually had a great weekend. I drank a lot, like a lot. I had a lot of champagne, and then I had an old fashioned. I had several not janky, decent gimlets, like gin gimlets with real gin. I had a really, really good weekend. I napped a lot and I did get a massage. So that was great. And I was feeling myself, because I had a nice little weekend. I was really feeling myself. And so yesterday was my first day back to work, which is like, I'm always working, but whatever. And so as I'm looking on my timeline, after months and months of some funny things, some raggedy things, but a lot of like sadness. I'm at an age where we're losing our parents. I lost my grandma last year. So some people lost grandparents, some people lost family members because of COVID. Other people are losing their family members or their parents because of either age or cancer or whatever. And it's just been like one after the other. That's been most of my timeline, a lot of sadness. And then over the past couple months, weeks rather, with schools going back, this whole thing with kids being exposed and families being exposed. So it's been really sad. But an amazing thing happened yesterday. My timeline was full of babies, and I could not get enough. A lot of people had babies during this time that we've been dealing with COVID. A lot of my friends, like, oh, I'm going to tell my age. A lot of my friends that I went to high school with, they're becoming grandmothers or grandparents, and they're showing off their little ones. And it's been really, really sweet. And I just can't get enough of all these little babies and all this happiness that's going on. And several Black women that I know, somehow, they got themselves all vaccinated. They don't have husbands or kids. So one of them has been over in Europe for like, I think it's going on 3 weeks now. She's been in France at least for 2 weeks, and she's given us a play-by-play. And I'm like, I hope she don't ever come back. I need to like live vicariously through her feed. It's been amazing. She's in Nice right now, and I'm like, girl, you need to give me more food. I need to know more about this food in Nice. And before that, she was, I think she was in Italy. So it's been really, my feed has been amazing for at least 24 hours, which means I should probably avoid it tomorrow because it's going to be hell. But anyway, let's move on. What's bringing you guys a slice of joy?
What do you got, Chris?
So this week, tomorrow starts the Salem Horror Festival. I'm on my spooky season kick, guys. And so the Salem Horror Festival is an LGBTQ plus friendly horror movie festival that happens in Salem, Massachusetts, as in Salem Witch Trials, Massachusetts. And they've done it every year for like the past 5 or 6 years. But last year they had to do it virtually because of COVID. This year they are back and they're actually doing in-person events. They're requiring everybody to be double vaxxed and negative, and you got to wear a mask. So they're really leaning into making sure that it's safe for all of the participants who can go. I can't go because I live in Arizona and I don't want to bring my Arizona COVID cooties anywhere right now. But they're also offering a virtual event this year. So they're doing both. So the virtual program will actually start the last 2 weeks of the month. And what you can do is get a $125 pass and you can watch all of the movies and all of the other content all year long. And this is really great because they had some really great lectures that I attended last year. They had a focus on like Black folks and horror last year. So there were a lot of people that I got to see talk, like Tarana Reeve Dew, who did, what's the name of that, Horror Noir. And she's now my Twitter buddy, and some other folks, right? So it's really interesting to kind of lean into some of that content as well. But I just love a horror movie festival, and I love a horror movie festival that's inclusive. The other thing that's important about Salem Horror Festival is that our Horror Fest is that this year they teamed up with the Satanic Church, or the Satanic Temple. The Satanic Temple, they're not Satan worshipers, but they are social justice warriors. And so what they've done is they've teamed up to raise money for abortion funds in Texas.
Nice.
So you can, on top of buying your ticket, you can make a donation, and it goes to places like AFIA and all of the organizations that are fighting SB8 in Texas. And so that's some real direct action. They're collecting money so people can go get abortions. So I'm so excited that they've paired up with the Satanic Temple. Those folks are funny, and they do some really good work. And they're just leaning into all of it. So I'm excited to start watching the content in a couple of weeks. But if you happen to be in or near Massachusetts this weekend and next weekend, go check them out. We need to support small festivals like this and festivals that, actually care about being inclusive.
I love that.
Me
My
too.
small piece of joy, and I actually have to run, is I got to see some more live music this weekend here in Charlotte, an outdoor venue to see the Trey Anastasio band. Trey's the lead singer of Fish, and it was a really amazing show. I had a really great time. It was so wonderful to be outside and to see some really great live music and dance and do all of those things. You did have to be vaccinated or have a COVID test. They also had rapid testing on site. And you had to have your mask on in the main public areas. And we had a little box, so we were pretty well situated. And we had a server too that could get us our snacks and things. So I didn't have to actually really go. And then we just rented a hotel downtown. So we just Ubered and didn't really have a lot of interaction with folks. So we had a great time. And, you know, so that show, the entire horn section was missing because one of them tested positive for COVID like 2 nights before. And then a night after our show, the drummer tested positive. So Trey had to play an acoustic set in Columbus. So you know, it's just something I'm thinking about. Like, is it possible to really safely tour right now? I don't know the answer to that, but it's definitely something sitting with me because this was the best of circumstances. The entire crew, the entire band are vaccinated. They're requiring either vaccinations or negative testing for the venue. It was an outdoor venue. I don't know how many more precautions we can put in place for live entertainment. And so I'm just sitting with that, but I had a great time and I have since tested. I test constantly, y'all. It's bad. I know it's probably awful, but I just do. I mean, they're free, so I go and test.
Right.
And so I'm fine, and there haven't been any like reports from the tour of attendees or anything, but I'm just thinking about the performers, you know, that just the act of moving from state to state and like, you know, little places where you're going to interact with the general public, even outside of the shows themselves, leave you vulnerable. This is not they're not getting on a private plane, right? These guys are on a bus, you know, traveling around the South and Southeast right now. And that's, you know, it has risk with it. And I appreciate two things. One, it's, you know, these folks' livelihood, but it's also their lifeline. You know, the idea, you know, when I saw Robert Glasper last week, he said performing for virtual audiences is fucking weird, and it's not the same. And as a musician, it doesn't feel the same, you know. I don't get the push and pull. I don't get the energy from you, and vice versa. And I'm just sitting with a lot of those thoughts around, you know, what can we do safely? What's reasonable? Is there just going to be risk involved in anything that we do? Which is really where I'm starting to land, and really, I want to talk about this in more circles because I think not enough of us are talking about the anxiety pieces of dealing with this current situation in the world. I know for me, it's been a source of anxiety. I've been paralyzed in moments, not afraid to do anything, afraid to not do anything, but also understanding that isolation is terrible for my mental health. And I just want all of us talking about it more because it's been bad not talking about it, and I think it's something that's gone unspoken for, you know, for way too long in this context of we'll be out of it, and that's not happening. So we've got to really start addressing our simultaneous need for safety and what our mental health needs are at the same time, and what risk means, what it doesn't mean, and how we can kind of navigate the world at this point. Also, please go get vaccinated, everybody, because we don't want any of y'all in the hospital. So that's what I have to say about that. All right, I do have to run. I have a doctor's appointment. I love y'all. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.